Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Unpick the Flowers. I hope you're doing alright today, and that this story finds you well. And if it doesn't, well, that's okay too. If you miss the world, you're not alone. The world misses you too.
Sweet memories beside the long promises, forget-me-nots, a youth composed of heart-shaped songs, cigarettes and vagabonds. A siren sound comes once in a moon to lure me away with its loveless tune, and I sit and wait for you to come, my child from the river. What words are these I'm trying to say, stuck to my tongue, hiding away, and I look to you for some solitude. How long will it last? Look to the past to unpick the flowers.
The next station is Camden Town.
I took 2 gap years. I left school, decided to take my first year out, which constituted of mooching around Camden and feeling misunderstood, sitting in the treehouse my dad built for me with a tape player, and forcing myself to enjoy smoking. My friends all went to university and I broke up with my boyfriend. I was fairly sad because he was a good boyfriend. He didn't mind that I'm not skinny, and I never remembered to shave my armpits. Those were his shining qualities. I said how it wasn't fair to him to start university tied down in a long-distance relationship, and I tried to look all forlorn and mature, nodding like, this is for the best, my little man. For some reason, when I was dumping him, I kept thinking about the last time we'd had sex. He was always silent in bed, but this last time I thought I heard him say something, so I very enthusiastically said, what was that? But it turned out he hadn't said anything. He left, and I was free. I dyed my hair pink and I wore black lipstick, and I experimented by tying various sashes of scrap material around my neck. And in town, the punks started giving me a nod and an almost smile, but I never spoke to any of them. I like to stand by myself in these spots around Camden with a book or an apple and let people look at me. When people stared, it made me feel warm. It still does. I love noticing somebody staring. And mums used to pull their kids in closer when I walked past. I'd beg my parents for money and I'd spend it on various piercings that would inevitably get infected, in which my mum would wash at the kitchen table, sighing and clucking, who would do this to themselves? And that year went by surprisingly quickly, considering I essentially did nothing. Autumn was coming, and so was my place at Aberdeen University, which Dad especially was very excited about. I think he had this image of me in Aberdeen, clean-faced and neatly dressed in a duffel coat, arm in arm with some cutesy academic gal pals. About a week before I was supposed to start my degree in plant and soil science, yeah, real degree, I rang the university up secretly on the landline and I asked for my place to be deferred. When I told Mum and Dad what I'd done, they looked disappointed, and Dad insisted I get a job and start paying rent. And that was what I told people when they asked what I was doing with my life. Well, that's what I would have told people if they'd ever have asked. But I was really lucky because I managed to get my job at the boot company in Kentish Town Road, I think mostly thanks to the eyebrow fang I wore to the interview. And I thought I'd learn how to dress really edgy, but I could not have been more wrong. Last year's image honing suddenly felt like I'd been learning to cycle with stabilisers on when I walked in on the shop on my first day. Everyone was terrifyingly cool. Plaid in places you didn't even know you could wear plaid. Dr. Martin boots with chains and spikes, collars and their hair. I felt like Hello Kitty. So then I started planning my outfits the night before, and I'd wake up early, determined to impress, overthinking every little detail. And that was because when I came in for work, my manager Sophie, not Sophie, Sophie with a Z, she'd look me up and down appraisingly and she'd sigh in irritation if I didn't look boot company enough, before giving me that "you're working in the back today" look. There were a lot of hardcore musicians that used to hang around the shop smoking fags with Sophie, and they were all sharp jaws and jutting hips, and all vastly tall and thin, and they had bad teeth. I worshipped them. None of them ever looked at me, probably because I was chubby and I had straight white teeth. But there was this one guy that started showing up. He was very quiet and he used to sort of stand soulfully in corners a lot. Kind of dug that. I liked to go and check stock nearby him and fiddle with my lip ring. One time, he looked through his dark fringe and he caught eyes with me. And I raised an eyebrow at him, which is punk for smiling, by the way. And one day he asked what my name was, and for one mad second I considered making a cool one up, like Zan or something. But I chickened out. Marigold. No way, that's punk rock. That is what he said. I fancied him a lot, and Sophie made fun of me ruthlessly.
I am bad at poetry. That is what was written in my book last night under a whole 3 pages of scribbled out rubbish, and I was sat on the tube reading it over and over on my way to the poetry cafe. I have some old stuff in there. Lame, grey, overcooked chicken. Edible, but why? Today has been awful because I, of course, bottled it, and instead of going to the poetry cafe last night, hung out with Sabina. I met her in Pimlico. We went to that pub that's right outside the tube entrance and drank everything. I'm not sure if everyone feels like this when they're very drunk, but I get weirdly conspiratorial about the smallest things. It's as if there's a little evil mastermind with a long beard inside me that goes, drop into conversation that you broke up with your boyfriend recently. A smile for 5 seconds, not 3. I go through pointless internal heists that accomplish basically the same as if I was just being a normal person, except everything I say and do has a duplicitous edge. Anyway, I touched her. And the worst thing is that I'm not entirely sure what the touch was. I just remember the intent behind the touch, which was, I fancy you. I have no idea whether it was something completely innocent, like a shoulder touch or an elbow touch, or whether I just went right for the fanny. Oh, it's been making me squirm all day. Whenever it pops into my head, I go, no, sometimes out loud, and I shake my head. Oh, I suppose it doesn't help that I'm horribly hungover. So today I have been sitting in the market at the pub that's right on the lock, drinking coffee in the sun, intermittently saying no while shaking my head. And the woman on the table down from me keeps glancing at me, looking concerned. I've been trying to at least squeeze a poem out of this disaster, but no such luck. Sabina hasn't texted. I keep checking my phone, unlocking it and checking Instagram and then Snapchat and then Messenger, because a couple of months ago I turned off all notifications in an attempt to limit my screen time, but I think it may actually have increased it. At least it delays the moment that I realise she has not got in touch. Probably because I groped her and made her feel really uncomfortable, and now she'll slowly fade out of my life because we'll never mention it and it'll get more awkward every time we see each other. I check my phone again and there's a Snapchat message waiting for me. Not Sabina. It's Noah. I half slide it open to see what the gist of the message is. He's in town. He wants to meet up. I shrug to myself, and pursing my lips in an inwardly joking way, I reply, he's on his way. I think about how I would be feeling if it was Sabina coming to see me. I'd definitely go to the bathroom and check how I look in the mirror. Instead, I pull out an unopened pack of Marlboro Green, unwrap it and take one out. Smoking is very hit and miss with me. Sometimes I feel guilty about it and sometimes I don't. So I always keep a pack on hand in case. The picture on this pack is the one of the kids standing by a grave. I look at it and light up. Come on, kid. Admit that there is something gorgeous about smoking in the sun with a coffee next to you. Noah arrives eventually and I don't remember the conversation, but it was relaxed and comfortingly superficial. The woman on the table down looks over again to see me stubbing out another cigarette and grabbing my purse to follow Noah out the pub. I feel sun-kissed, barely hungover anymore, and I know that we're going to have sex. Thank God I remember to shave my armpits.
That summer just kept getting hotter and hotter, which was infuriating for all the punks in the boot company lot because we like to wear leather and big boots and lots of makeup. I say this because I was, by this time, officially punk. I shaved the underneath of my hair and put the top into schoolgirl bunches, which Kez liked. Sophie called me a slag, but I decided to take that as a compliment. Since Kez became my official boyfriend, I felt a lot more confident and started wearing tartan miniskirts and fishnet stockings, which I'd always felt too fat for before. But Kez liked my body, he said. After work, he'd pick me up from the shop and we'd go and kick bins over or burn stuff and usually end up in my treehouse with a joint. I never told Kez that we were sitting in the spot I'd lost my virginity. I thought it would be really cool to have sex in the treehouse, but I'd just got splinters in my arse and had a very humbling tweezing session with my mother, who kept saying, "I don't want to know." One day, Kez and I were chasing swans along the canal, trying to make them do that thing where they take off and run along the water. And when we stopped running and sat down on the bank, he asked me why we hadn't had sex. I ripped a handful of grass up and started playing with it. I could tell he thought it was my first time. I'm not a virgin. I had this boyfriend at school that I had sex with, only that was before I started dressing like this and hanging out, you know? And so in a weird way, it does feel a bit like I'm a virgin again, because I feel like a new person.
Oh, so you want a new style of sex to fit your new sexy look?
Yeah, I think that's what I mean.
Well, you should have said.
He was looking at me in a way that he hadn't before. In the shop, he'd always been quiet and sulky, not looking for attention. But now his breathing moved his chest, and I noticed the outline of his arm muscles poking through his sleeves. I let him take me to his place. It was dirty, but cool. There were sheets and blankets hanging in the windows instead of curtains, and posters leaning against the walls.
Yeah, I haven't got round to hanging those.
They're wicked. He turned to look at me and stood really, really close. We kissed for a long time, and he sort of moved my body around in a forcefully passionate way with his arms. He brushed my skirt with his hands and playfully lifted it up, feeling my fishnetted arse. And then he took off my top, and I took off his top, and he leaned down to undo his Dr. Martens. This halted the process a while as he loosened the laces one by one. I followed suit, but he stopped me.
Keep the boots on.
Topless and sitting patiently on the edge of the bed, I watched him. I noticed that he laced his boots in a funny way in straight horizontal lines rather than crisscrossed. He turned to me.
Turn around.
Like this?
Yeah, that'll do. I love your big arse. Bend over. God, you're so sexy. Looking like a naughty girl.
He went on talking like that and smacking my bum. I'm not sure whether I liked it or not. I decided I did. I felt a bit like I was humouring him, and I wondered what I ought to be saying back. I was used to facing my ex-boyfriend when we had sex and hugging him and him looking like he was concentrating really hard and our sweaty bodies making farting noises when we pressed together. This was different. It felt like a performance, except I hadn't learned my lines. Then he turned me over and he put his hand softly on my neck. He slowly squeezed and he asked if it was okay, and I said yeah, because I didn't have time to think about it. And anyway, he was already doing it. He squeezed harder and I couldn't breathe. I felt myself going red, and I wondered how on earth this could look sexy to him. I felt sure that I must look like an angry baby. My face felt like it was all puffed up. He let go and he seemed to be finished.
How did you like that?
Yeah, I liked it.
Have you ever seen porn?
No.
Take one of my tapes. You can see the stuff the women do.
He handed me a VHS. Thanks. I got dressed and left. I tried to figure out on the way home if I'd enjoyed that sex more than with my ex. It was definitely less embarrassing, but that was because my job had really just been to maintain my positions and wear boots. I had a feeling that my job would get harder though if he was giving me training videos to watch. I caught sight of myself in a shop window. I definitely looked sexy. And as I remembered the things Kez had said while we fucked, I got a thrill, almost like an electric shock that ran through my stomach. I'd never felt that before.
I always wake up early when I'm at other people's houses. Isn't that the strangest time? When you're awake in a strange house and the person whose home it is still asleep and you're just a stranger, really. Not allowed to touch anything or move anything or make any noise. You just have to wait. I took myself into the garden where it felt like I could do the least damage. Everything was very neat and boring, flowers trimmed like the overly groomed beard of a man you don't trust. But there was a tree in the middle of the lawn that was outrageously slanted. Really, how dare it be so off-kilter in the middle of such a sterile garden? There was a weak morning sun filtering over the far hedge, and I shut my eyes and turned my face straight through it. The blue flashes peered behind my eyelids. Spots and stars float and jump. I squat down and feel in my trouser pocket for a cigarette. Just as I'm lighting up, I hear the garden door open.
You can't smoke out here.
Oh, sorry.
I don't want cigarette butts all over my garden.
I wouldn't have thrown it in the garden. It's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Chris, Noah's friend.
I gathered. I'm Ellen.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. I just woke up early and didn't want to bother anyone.
Okay. So what's your favourite bit of the garden then?
I like the tree.
Oh, so the bit I didn't do.
I mean, it's all lovely.
I'm just kidding around. You can finish that one, if you let me one too.
Yeah, sure.
I gave up, but it's a lovely morning for one, isn't it?
My thoughts exactly. We sat together on the curly iron garden bench. It felt cold and textured on my legs.
I didn't do any of it. The garden.
Oh, really?
No, we have a gardener. So, what do you think of it?
It's a bit neat for me, but I get it. She laughed a lot.
It's crap, isn't it?
It's not crap, it's just a bit...
Boring.
Well, yeah, a bit. If I had a garden, I'd want the flowers spilling everywhere and petals blowing in every direction.
That is the dream. What the hell are these?
Marlborough Green.
Why?
The first time I bought cigarettes, I didn't know what to ask for, so I just copied what the woman in front of me said.
Oh, don't be a follower. You should know. These are trash.
What should I ask for instead?
Oh, anything but these.
You seem to be enjoying it.
Oh, I haven't had one in months. Feels bloody amazing. When I'm done, I'll go and I'll wake up Noah for you so he can look after you. Are you a girlfriend of his? I think I saw you when I came to Bristol to pick him up.
We're friends.
So, what are you doing at our house with no pyjamas or toothbrush then?
One night stand.
You know, you're not supposed to say that to the mum of the person you've just shagged. That's my baby you're talking about.
Well, you did ask. I'm just being honest.
Okay. I'll make a case for him then. What aren't you sure about? He's a good cook.
Sexy.
That is certainly very sexy when you get a bit older, madam.
It's not him. I fancy someone else.
Oh, so you were using my darling son to forget about some other useless boy.
Useless girl. She's my best friend. And I think the other night I might have done something silly when I was drunk. And she hasn't texted me since. And then Noah messaged me yesterday.
Yikes. I'll make coffee, shall I?
She floated around the kitchen, effortlessly whipping together 2 coffees without ever breaking our conversation. I couldn't believe she was Noah's mum. Noah is so inoffensive. But Ellen, the more honest and rude I was, the more she seemed to like me. We were on our 3rd coffee and 4th cigarette by the time Noah came downstairs. He looked a bit nervous to see us chatting together so amicably. He joined us outside for a while, but we were discussing a book we'd both recently read, and he eventually went back inside to shower and left us to it. I felt a bit guilty to give her so much more attention than him, but I couldn't help it.
You're not really his type, you know. He likes very, girly, smiley and big eyes. Your eyes are sort of beady and clever. and not in a bad way. They make you look wise.
She's floundering now. And I let her.
Maybe it's just because you're not wearing any makeup. Oh, the makeup they wear makes me feel so frumpy. Who has the time?
I like not wearing makeup.
And wearing boy clothes?
No such thing. All clothes look better on girls.
Sure you're not all the way gay?
Your son's given me half a mind. She cracked up at that.
Oh, just text the girl. What have you got to lose?
It seemed to take a long time before I was allowed to hang out with Kez's friends. It never felt like the right moment to introduce myself. But a couple of months in, the band had a gig and I was sure he'd have to invite me to that. They were all talking about what they were going to wear. The little ratty one, called something like Gump, asked Sophie if he could borrow one of her leather jackets.
Only if you give the shop a shout out at the end, alright? Sorry if you think that's lame, but I'm running a business here, Gumbo.
I listened in. Gumbo said something about bringing enough business already, and Sophie saying she'd prefer to get some more respectable clients rather than those vagabonds. I stopped paying attention, but when I looked back at Kez, I saw that he was listening in too. He looked quite distracted. Then, suddenly, they were off. He turned back to me like he'd forgotten something and asked if he could steal a cigarette. I gave him one. He left.
You alright, kid?
Yeah.
Honestly, the way they go on about these gigs, like they're playing Wembley, I don't want to go, but I need to make sure they don't ruin those jackets. Or pinch them.
Kez didn't invite me.
Well, maybe he was embarrassed too. They're pretty shit. Come with me, he'll be glad to see you there when it's all over. Probably just nervous. It's his first gig with them.
Yeah.
What are you going to wear?
No idea.
Maybe we should shake up the look a bit. The schoolgirl thing's getting a bit old.
She was really getting on my nerves. I could tell she was enjoying being so superior, like she was saving me from humiliation. Kez likes it.
Well, obviously, but that's not the only reason to wear clothes, you know. Let's put you in something a bit more sophisticated. Look around. What do you like the look of? Here, look, these pinstripes are cool. They'll fit you nicely. Oh, and try them with this top. What? It looks good.
I put on the clothes. The pinstripe trousers fit snugly, a bit too snug, and when I looked in the mirror, I thought I looked mannish. The top she'd given me was a yellow t-shirt with flowers sewn on. It had loose stitching and patches and holes, and on the back it says, "I'm not your flower." It made me think of this talk we had had in school a few years ago. A woman had come into assembly and she was talking about sex ed. She said how dangerous sex is and all the scary things that can go wrong. But the thing that scared me the most was what she said to the girls. She said that you should save yourself for someone you love, and that the more you have sex before you find that person, the less special it would be. She said, "You might be tempted to pick a pretty flower, but you can't unpick a flower. Once you pick it, it might look pretty for a while, but it will quickly go bad."
Come on then, let's see.
I stepped out of the changing room. Sophie raised her eyebrows and I could tell she really thought I looked good. I looked in the mirror. A grown-up was looking back, even better because I wasn't a boring adult, I was an adult with identity. Sophie handed me a top hat. It had daisies going all the way round.
You shouldn't do your laces up like that.
She was looking with a frown at my boots. I'd relaced them to look like Kez's. Why not? They look cool.
No, they don't. They make you look like a thug.
Kez wears them like that.
Does he? Well, tell him to stop.
Why do they make me look like a thug?
Doesn't matter. Just don't do them like that. Especially not round the shop. Don't want people talking.
What does it matter how I lace my boots?
It just does.
I was too scared of her to press her further on the issue. But it added a feeling to the strange cocktail that was already mixing in my stomach when I thought about my boyfriend.
I worry about my heart a lot, which is a stupid thing for a 21-year-old to worry about. Sometimes I worry that it beats too fast. Sometimes I worry that it's too slow. I also get concerned that if I'm too aware of my heart, it will feel pressured and mess up. But it always does remember to beat again. And I guess it will always remember to until it doesn't. Sometimes, though, I wish it would just have a rest. It scares me that my heart can't have a breather, that no matter what, it has to keep doing its job consistently and steadily for the whole of my life. And sometimes when I'm finding it difficult to sit and be in myself and all I can hear is dun 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 dun, I want to tell it to shush just for a second. I'm lying on my bed and my body feels extraordinary. There are feelings in my pelvis and my stomach and my chest and my head that are almost unbearably good. It might be the blood. My heart is pushing around my body. Maybe that feeling is my cells being oxygenised. Or maybe it's some kind of energy that is particularly loose and free inside me today. My dad goes on about chakras. He does a lot of yoga, probably because the instructor at Archway is really fit. I've seen her and I totally get it. And he comes home and talks about chakras and flows and vinyasa and other words I recognise but have no idea what they mean. One of the chakras is the heart chakra. It's funny because when people talk about hearts, they tend to be describing things that are flighty or maybe decadent. Hearts aren't associated with simply having to go on. Hearts are things that fall in love and then break and then mend. Heart in general doesn't mean an engine or a prisoner who has to keep working, trapped behind bars, can't rest ever because it has a job to do until it has literally worn itself into the ground. Sometimes I think about how we all have a finite number of heartbeats. And when yet another one goes past, I think, did you make the most of that one? My legs feel incredible. My heart is saying that I want a really strong coffee. I think the problem with my poetry is that I don't have any discipline. My head is everywhere and nowhere today. Ugh, even my thoughts are annoying. Shush, thoughts! I put the kettle on. I said shush! But no, they keep going and going and going and swaying and laughing and swelling and dying in whirlwinds of beautiful colours that don't have names and laugh at me. Because I'll never get to a pen fast enough to make them worth anything. Because what is even the worth of beautiful thoughts if you can't write them down and prove that you have these beautiful, beautiful thoughts inside your head? Aren't I lucky, you'd think? And everyone would nod and gasp, and then you could be ugly and no one would mind your dandruff because you're a genius. But all you do is think and think and think, and the thoughts are dandruff. Delicate flakes of glass that magnify dandelion fluff in the wind and make you think of country music, the good kind, but when you try to say them out loud, they're just an everlasting bullshit sentence of cut-price words because you can't afford the pretty ones, the valuable ones. They don't come to you. They don't think you're sexy enough. Those words like, gosh, you can't even think of one. Something like shabadagogic. They all whisper about you and talk about how you're too boring to ever have a husband or a wife, and that all you'll ever be good for is stupid, rambling, horizontal, polysyntactic clauses stuck in real life. Nothing you ever do is vertical or diagonal. It just staples together clause after clause with and after and after and.
And you're a stammering child.
Why am I calling myself you? You doesn't feel like the relationship I have with me. But then if I am me, then who are you?
Maybe we're we.
I prefer we.
We're a stammering child and the grown-ups aren't listening and we haven't learned the words yet, Dad. We can't say the very important thing that we've realized about the world, that a million billion have realized before us, but it's still so important because we're your little girl, the one out of a million billion ones you could have had, and we're realizing things about the world, and we want to tell how you're filled with something bigger than us, and it is making us float, and oh help, we're floating away, and we're shouting because we finally found the words, and now you can hear us, and we wish we could have told you, but we're forgetting anyway, and now we're in the clouds, and we can run across the tops of them and throw ourselves into them like giant pillows like we always wanted to. And we can mold ourselves cats out of wafer like clay, and there are whales swimming up here, giant whales that keep us safe, and we wish we could write a name and be contented, but it's too hard. We wish we could hold our breath forever, but eventually we have to stop.
But eventually we have to stop. The kettle's boiled. I look down at the enormous sentence I've written out. It's rubbish.
My eyes are taking photos. Slideshow, blue and dust and black lines that I think are stumping like lightning with the face. I feel so aggressively good. Sophie gave me a pill when we got here, and we went to the bathroom together, and we stood in the cubicle together, and we were so close. I felt so important. And I took the pill, and now colours are touching and telling me I have an hourglass figure. Also, the music feels amazing, and my legs feel good, and my boyfriend Kez is on the stage, and all the people here are looking at him and imagining him naked and wondering who he's fucking, and it's me, and I'm in the crowd dancing like everyone else. I have a secret and nobody can know.
Oi, your jaw's swinging like mad, girl.
I am dancing until the fucking morning.
Jesus, you're still coming up. Are you alright, Maz?
She called me Maz. Sophie called me Maz. That's the nickname. She is the closest friend I have in the world right now. I couldn't really hear the music, but it was combining with the smells and sounds to make one tube-ish feeling of what the night was. And it was big eyes and dancing. The band were covered in smoke, so I wasn't sure if Kez had seen me. And Sophie kept trying to pull me by the hand to the front, but I was vaguely aware that if I got too close, I might put Kez off. Everyone looks angry, but I think that means they're having a good time. I can't remember how, but me and Sophie are in a little room and the band's there. So is Kez! Hi, Kez! Did I say that out loud? Hi, Kezzy!
Stop that. What are you wearing?
I'm wearing clothes from the shop. You like it?
Jesus, Sophie. You're trying to convert her or something. You're dressing her up like a dyke.
Fuck you.
Kez turned to me.
Is she doing things to you? She trying to make you hang out with her and her friends? Your eyes are fucking massive. Did she sleep you something?
Yes, Sophie gave me a pill. We're best friends.
Stay the fuck away from my girlfriend, you queer. What have you done to her?
She made me relace my boots. She said yours are done up wrong. Here, let me fix them. I fumbled with the knot, but he pulled his foot away from me hard, and it made me lose my balance and fall over. They were still arguing. I was sitting on my arse looking up at Sophie like a little child, and from underneath I saw Kez spit in her face. Some of it sprayed on me. I was yanked by the arm and the world span about, and the next thing I knew I was walking along the street arm in arm with Sophie. Are they bad?
Yes.
I pulled away hard.
What are you doing, stupid?
They're bad! And I had sex with Kez and he's bad! My flower's gonna go all bad. I wasted it.
What on earth are you talking about?
She sat me down on a wall outside someone's flat. The lady, she said you can't unpick a flower and that you start to go bad.
That sounds like bollocks to me. I had sex with Gumbo and my flowers just fine. But I'm never going to again, and I'm not letting that gang anywhere near the shop.
Because they said I look like a dyke.
No, but that was just, ugh. There's something really wrong with them. Full of hate.
I'm feeling normal again. You okay?
No, I'm really lonely.
She said this looking away from me. I think because she couldn't bear to see pity in my face. I felt stony and knew nothing would be the same tomorrow. I took her hand.
Right, read me the text again.
It says, "Hey, I think we need to talk about what happened. Can we meet up? Would rather not do it over the phone." Do you think she means it in a good way or a bad way?
Impossible to know. This is why I hate texting. You can't put a finger on the tone. So many miscommunications. What did you reply?
I haven't.
Chris, you have to reply to that.
What the hell do I say?
Okay. Say, sounds good, and ask when she's thinking.
If I say sounds good, it seems like I'm expecting a good outcome.
I think you're overthinking it.
It's probably not a good outcome. Chances are she's going to say that I was creepy and she doesn't want to be friends anymore. But that's sort of fine. At least there's not much I can do about that. God, but what if it is a good outcome? What the fuck do I do then? Then I actually, have to say stuff and do stuff. Oh my God, no, I'm so not ready to see her. I'm not
what?
Whenever I fantasize about us being together, I imagine myself different, older and braver and sure of myself, good at poetry, longer hair, skinnier legs.
Oh, shush.
No, I mean, my legs are fine. I like them, but yeah, you're right. I do overthink stuff, and I don't want to. I want to do stuff. I never just do stuff.
Right, hang on and let me grab a pen and paper. We're going to make a list of all the things you want to do, and then you're going to do them. You, young lady, are going to learn the joys of commitment.
Noah pokes his head round the door and asks if he can go to his mate's house.
Yes, Noah, you're an adult man. You don't need to ask me every time you want to go round your girlfriend's house.
He looks at me, embarrassed, and mutters something about her not being his girlfriend. What? I don't care. He shrugs and leaves.
All right, let's make this list.
I sit next to Ellen and our arms are leaning against each other. She's strong and warm and smells like powder. Her cardigan is gold and one piece of her pinned up hair twirls behind her ear in that graceful way that's the secret of older women. I can hear her breathing. I'm talking and she's writing things down, and for some reason it feels like a huge relief that someone agrees with me that I have a problem. People are always telling me, "Oh, I'm great just the way I am," which is just unhelpful, frankly. Finally, someone is helping me become who I want to be.
Number 1, perform my poetry in front of someone that isn't me. All right, do that now. Read me one.
Right now? No.
Chris, listen to Nike and just do it.
All right. Fuck, whatever. You don't care.
Nope.
Okay. I take off my shoes. Not sure why. Get on the sofa. Chapter 1. My first period.
Chris, come on.
Okay. Here goes. I read it out. I stumble on my words once or twice. I'm reading it too fast and my face feels hot. I don't look up.
When did you write that?
Last week. I feel some kind of dread rising in me. I think Ellen could tell it was about her. She's looking out the window deliberately away from me, nodding her head slowly and thoughtfully. I'm still standing on the sofa whose saggy cushions are giving up under me, but I don't want to make any noise, so that Ellen has the excuse to keep looking out the window. I don't want her to look at me. I want to disappear. Did you like it? She looks back around and gives me a firm smile, and I see she has a tear in her eye. She mouths, "Yeah," and comes over and pulls me into a hug. Tell me what you think.
I think it was simple, but pretty. Not Milton, but very kind. Thank you.
She doesn't let me go.
Sophie's flat was not what I expected. Heart frames with pictures of her and her girlfriend all punked up but smiling brightly. She had flowery oven mitts and hooks on the wall above the cooker for ladles and pots. She made me coffee. I felt like a costume of a woman. She was making fun of me as usual, but I felt it was a difference. Maybe it was in myself? I just smiled and sipped my coffee, looking out the window at the street below. Maybe it's because I was hungover like mad. We sat, both looking out the window. Silence grew. I was amazed to find that I was the one to break it. What are you going to do?
I'm quitting the shop. I can't change who comes in there, and I can't deal with them anymore.
Kez and Gumbo, part of...
I think they want to be. When you've been working in that shop long enough, you start to see the signs. Most people around the area are gorgeous, lovely people, but there are a few who are out to get us.
Because you're gay.
I think they just hate everyone that's different to them. It doesn't matter how or why. Anyway, I'm done.
Where are you going to go?
I've always loved fashion. I wanted to go to fashion school, but I didn't get in. Maybe I'll try again, or apply for something new. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
She shrugged and looked out of the window again. She lived right by Parliament Hill, the girls' school that I used to stay clear of when I was at Ackland Burley. There was a gang of girls walking along, bumping into each other and laughing like they were high. It echoed weirdly up the walls of the building, sounding hollow by the time it reached us. I'm going to break up with Kez.
No shit. Marigold, you are worth so much more than him.
She looked so sad, it broke my heart. Without her makeup on, she looked older and more serious, and she had big dark circles under her eyes. Hey, I have something that might cheer you up. She looked round at me, but I could tell she was still thinking about other things. I pulled my wallet out my bag. So, last week, me and Kez went back to mine to have sex. Now I had her attention. And he wanted me to take control. You know, like, order him about and stuff. And I always do what he wants, so I began telling him things to do. And I was proper making it up on the spot. I had no idea what I was going to make him do. But I didn't want him to see that I didn't know what I was doing. So I tied him up. I pulled out this pair of fairy wings I wore when I was a kid, and I put them on him. He looked put out and started shifting about, trying to look manly. And guess what I said then?
What?
She was grinning at me incredulously. I said, "Look at you, you big bad fairy."
No, you didn't. You must have looked so funny.
So funny, but I knew if I laughed then he would stop. So I just kept saying how turned on I was. I guess I wanted to see what else I could make him do. So I gave him a matching wand, one of those little plastic ones shaped like a star at the end, and I made him spank himself with it. And I took a picture.
No, you didn't. Show me this instant.
I pulled the Polaroid out of my wallet and handed it to her.
Look at his pants.
We laughed a lot and she walked me home. On Monday, I let myself into the shop to collect my things. I'd given my 2 weeks' notice, but Sophie said she's going on holiday for the next 2 weeks and has found someone else to look after it anyway. Get out there, girl, she said. I went into the little staff room, and on the table there was a pile of t-shirts. I had to look at them and gasped. She had printed the picture of Kez onto every one. She'd left a note for me too.
My mum always said I wasn't employable because of how I chose to dress myself and pierce myself and tattoo myself. That's ridiculous, I said. And it is ridiculous, but it's also true. People think they know who you are, and they don't bother to find out if they're right or not. But if it's who you are, what do you do? Should I put on a suit and tie on weekdays? Am I holding myself back? I'm going away, and I can tell you now that it's not a holiday. I've gone to interview for a job in Mexico in a proper studio. It's just an assistant job, but it could lead to things. Maybe. I'll have to dress different, but I don't think I mind. Do what you want with the t-shirts. Thought I'd leave it up to you. I'll miss you, Sophie.
She signed off the note with a kiss. I could feel that she would get the job and that I would never see her again. I looked at the t-shirts and thought about how satisfying it would be to hang them up in the shop window. But I couldn't do that. I didn't want to be someone that did that. I knew what it felt like to be humiliated. I took them home and burned them in the garden. Except for one. I kept it. Just for the memory.
I'm awake, and I don't like it. I always wake up too late and feel truly disgusted with myself, like, you chose not to have those magical 4 extra hours of being you and being alive just to lie here getting stiff and groggy. And I feel ashamed because in those moments it seems like I don't love myself and I don't love my life. And then it takes me about half an hour to forgive myself, and then I make a coffee, and then I have a shower, and then I feel lost until I decide to have lunch. I'm awake. I reach for my phone and look at the time. 5:23 a.m. That's so early that anyone could forgive themselves for going back to sleep. But I don't. I find my body moving. That voice in my head is laughing at me like it knows I'm just going to collapse back into my swarmy pool of bed sheets and pillows, still heated from my dreams. But I don't. I have some shorts on, a sports bra. I don't have any clean socks, so I just put my bare feet in my trainers, and it feels kind of gross, but I don't care. I'm downstairs, out of the house, the door's shut, and I'm running. I'm out of breath and my stomach hurts by the time I get to the end of our road, but I just run faster. I can't believe how quickly I want to stop. This is why I never go running. It's terrible. But there's something different about today. Maybe it's because it's 5:30 in the morning, so it doesn't feel like anything's real. I run faster. I feel on the brink of some sort of freedom, maybe madness. I'm in Tufnell Park, running down the posh streets, and I pass those dads that get up super early to come out into the front garden with their cup of tea to see whether they were the earliest dad today, smiling smugly when the others arrive, nodding and saying, "Morning." I run faster. My body feels clumpy and too big for me. I must look very odd, but it doesn't matter. I keep running and my feet hurt as they slap the ground. Are your feet supposed to slap the pavement like this, sockless and smelly? And then I stop. My body's decided to stop. I breathe hard and I had a stitch. I look up. There's Ackland Burley, my old school. It looks greyer and smaller than I remember it. I realise I haven't been back since I left for university. And then I'm off again. I run over the train bridge and all the way up and down the stairs. And I run past the rec centre where I had my 5th birthday party and my dad put party cones over his eyes and ran around pretending to be a T-Rex. I run past the frilly sweet shop, the off-licence. I run past the hall where I did ballet lessons when I was a kid, and tap lessons too, where we did good toes, naughty toes. My toes remained naughty. There had been a little hole in the door there, and I remember peeping through, and this had been the first time I'd noticed that things aren't actually where we think they are. that our two eyes see things slightly different from each other, and that if you shut one, then the world shifts to the left, and if you shut the other, everything shifts to the right, and that the world we see with our two eyes is just a ghostly compromise between the two. I run past the huge houses with the red pointy tops, past that awful boys' school, William Ellis, and I'm on the heath. It's busy, even at this time. High-achieving people walking their dogs before they start their days filled with meetings and purpose. And suddenly it dawns on me that I'm running through a secret. The secret of the early risers. What an odd bunch. I'm seeing them before anyone in their lives will today. Maybe their husbands and wives know that they get up early and they're taking the dog out. Maybe they don't know. They certainly don't know what they look like, what they're thinking about, where they're looking, how cold they're feeling. And now I do. I keep running, and for a moment I debate which way to turn, but my body already knows. I turn towards Parliament Hill. It looks huge this morning. I speed up. It feels like the earth is pushing back at me from the front, like a huge being from under the ground is holding me down, trying to stop me from flying. I push even harder. At this point, I'm grunting every time I breathe out, but who cares? I'm just a visitor in this early morning life. I know I'm not going to stop until I reach the top, and I don't. And when I get there, I lie on the floor. It's muddy and freezing, but I don't care. I feel so terrible. Like I might die, like I might never get my breath back. I let myself shout out when I exhale, like, oh! And it doesn't matter. My heart and my lungs feel raw. I start to shiver. I get up and look at London. You can see it all from up here. I realise how tiny Camden is, and now the thought of just going back where I came from makes me feel sick. I look around at the top of the hill. Had this been the goal? Why do I not feel anything? I keep going. It's easy because it's downhill, too downhill. But I let gravity pull me down. I let my legs go. They can barely keep up. I feel out of control and I scream. It doesn't matter. I get to the swimming pools. I remember my dad taking me here when I was little and how I was too scared to get in, so we just sat on the side and he read me Harry Potter. They're shut, but I'll jump over the fence. I take off my bra and my shorts, so I'm just in my pants, rip off my shoes. Yikes, they smell terrible. And I trot over to the stony edge. I climb down the little ladder and oh my God, the water is so cold. But I sink steadily further down and then I push off and I feel like a frog. Oh. I look at the flowers around me, the musty morning sky, and I'm thinking, this is the best life gets. Are you making the most of this? I smile, but I can't tell if I really wanted to or whether I'm performing to myself so that I can look back and remember this moment of swimming at dawn and smiling to myself. My smile feels weird now, so I stop. I'm flapping my legs and arms underwater like a jellyfish. Okay, this is incredible. I think about everything I don't want to think about, like Sabina and Ellen crying and making me embarrassed, like Noah worrying about upsetting me with his new girlfriend. But it's safe to think about those things here because I have to keep swimming. If I stop, then I drown. Maybe this is what it feels like to be a heart. It's quite nice. It feels fresh and lonely and calm. I open my eyes. I can't remember closing them. And there's a duck next to me, swimming alongside me, looking at me curiously. It seems to know that I couldn't reach out and pat it because I need my arms to keep me afloat, so it comes closer. It gets so close to me that I can smell its birdy, pondy, warm, feathery smell. It nibbles my ear. It swims away. I can't believe that just happened.
Do you swim here regularly?
What?
Sorry, did I startle you? It's 16 degrees this morning. And you know what I say? If you can get in at 16, you can get in at 15. And if you can handle 15, then you can handle 14. And soon enough, you'll be in here when it's snowing in January. You just take it by degrees, darling. Life!
I guess so. I'm going to get out now. I swim to the edge, pull myself out, and look back at this weird woman. Socially very strange. But she looks happy and she swims with her eyes shut and she looks at peace. I realise she's seen my tits. But it doesn't matter. I'll probably never see her again. I put my shorts and bra on and I start to walk home. I'm in a dreamy headspace, and the parks and trees and dogs and gorgeous Botox mummies on their morning run just phase through me. Like I'm a ghost. Or like I'm the only real thing walking through a projection. My feet are squelching in my shoes. I take them off and hold them in my hand as I keep walking. I'm still thinking about those scary thoughts, but they aren't scaring me anymore. I'm thinking about them really hard. I'm not pushing them away. I'm not shaking my head. I'm not going, no, no, because it doesn't matter. I can see why people get murdered early in the morning. Those murderers probably feel as strange as I do. And later, they must look back and think, did I really kill someone this morning? Mad. I can think about Sabina because I know she's asleep right now. I don't know why that makes a difference, but it does. I don't know what I feel. I push for something, but nothing. Is that normal? I get home and go straight upstairs, strip off, get back into my pyjamas and throw myself into bed. I cuddle my duvet with my whole body, squeeze it between my legs. God, I feel amazing. I wake up, it's 11:30, and I smile. It doesn't matter. I go down for my coffee and my dad's there, fully dressed, and clearly his day is in full swing. He says something like, good morning, or should I say good afternoon? Ha, had a nice lie-in. I smile and say, yeah, it was lovely. And he shakes his head, and it doesn't matter. I breathe. I get out my phone, type the message.
Does anyone else think that? About those poor sods at the market that get scammed into spending £50 in a pair of Primark harem pants? And don't get me started on the piercing stands. Whenever I see a tourist getting their ears pierced there, I want to run over there, screaming, and save them from the infections they are absolutely going to get. I got my belly button pierced there when I was a girl. I know. And I was too embarrassed to tell my mother what I'd done. So when it got infected and swelled into a strange lump, I told her I had a hernia. And I really did try to fake a hernia at the hospital to save face.
I had run all the way to the comedy club. I needed a laugh and I needed it now. I'd gone running exactly the number of times I had been to the comedy club before that day, which was 0 times. I imagined I looked kind of like a melting corpse. Cute. There was some lady on the stage brandishing a microphone, and people in the audience were shouting stuff out and laughing, generously, I thought, because she wasn't being that funny, but it looked like she was introducing another act. Maybe she was one of those comedy club hosts whose jobs are just to stall while acts set up and say something kind of funny, but not as funny as the acts they're actually paying to be there, so they look better in comparison. If so, she was doing a stellar job. I took off my jacket, put it on the side somewhere, went to the bar, stood there. The bar guy asked what I wanted. I said whiskey. Neat. I wasn't even sure what neat meant, I just heard it in a movie. It turned out neat means stark naked whiskey, not even with coke in it, but I had to pretend that was exactly what I wanted. I took it to a table in the corner at the back, sat down. It didn't matter. That's what was weird. It just didn't matter what I did at the back of that room with all the lights pointing the other way. No one was looking at me. I could sit at the back there, making disgusted faces every time I sipped my whiskey, and it didn't matter. I could laugh at the people on the stage, or not. I grinned to myself. I didn't really care what they were talking about, but there was something that pulled my heart to watch them walking backwards and forwards on the stage, leaning forwards, sweating slightly under the lights in their plaid shirts and jeans and trainers. The way they looked into the dark audience of shadowy people hoping for laughs. It broke my heart for some reason. I came back every day. I hadn't told my parents I'd quit my job yet, so I would leave the house in the morning as usual and come to the comedy club. It was very different in the daytimes. The way my naked face looks in the mirror, delicate and faded like a stone on the beach. I scared them there. The people were all a bit new wave grungy, and my spiked hair and boots and chains freaked them out. I loved it. In the evenings, the bar guy would make me a whiskey. Who is that strange girl who sits in the corner with a double Jameson and never laughs? Me, that was me. I even started to get mentioned by the MC woman as a running joke. She began promising a pint to the comedian that could make me laugh. I was invincible, because laughter was something I could choose to do or not. It seemed to me that everyone there was pushing out laughs to make the night worth it. But I didn't have anyone here to impress.
Thank you so much. That was Stephen Abbott, everyone. Big round of applause. I remember when I was a girl and I came to the comedy club trying to get myself a slot, I would say to Gary over there, behind the bar, "Hi, Gary."
I looked up and there was someone new on stage. He wasn't like the others. He wasn't beaming or gleaming, looking like a puppy trying to get treats from his owner. It was like he was daring people to laugh at what he was saying. He seemed annoyed even when they did. And I was watching him intently and he looked back. It made me smile. Everyone was pissing themselves at his last joke. He rolled his eyes at me like, aren't they so easily pleased? That made me laugh, and when I laughed, he did a face that was so taken aback that it made me laugh even harder. He carried on his set, but one corner of his mouth was twitching with pride.
That was Artie Goldman, ladies and gents. A magnificent comic, and look, he has managed the impossible. Our little lady at the back there has been broken down, finally.
Woo!
I believe that entitles him to a pint.
Give him a pint!
I'll buy it for him. I said this quite calmly. The audience looked around at me, everyone murmuring good-humouredly. He looked over at me from the side of the stage and the lights flashed purple in one of his eyes. I gestured to the bar. Off stage, he was awkward and not very funny. We had 3 drinks and then went back to his place. I said I wanted to try something with him. He looked so nervous that I started giggling uncontrollably, which only made him look more nervous. I asked him if he had any costumes. He didn't. Not to worry, I said. He asked me how old I was. I laughed. I'm not sure I actually want to have sex.
That's all right. We don't have to.
Can you get undressed for me, though? He obeyed. I looked at him. He was tall and skinny, but he had a bit of a belly. He looked like a lizard. Pretty cute. Bend over. He smiled at me, unsure, but intrigued, and bent over as I'd asked. I don't know why, but I reached in my backpack and pulled out my makeup bag. Can I put makeup on your arse. He consented, giggling too now. I made up his arse like I make up my face in the mornings. Began with some concealer and foundation, then contoured some cheekbones into his fleshy buttocks. He was shaking and gagging with laughter. It seemed that he was ticklish. It took me a long time. I was really going for a high-fashion diva look, and we chatted like we were at the barber's and I was cutting his hair. The more he giggled, the more the feeling in my stomach grew. It was a wonderful feeling, warm and jittering, like a skittish ball of light. His bum slowly bloomed from a pimply wasteland of skin to a face. I said I thought it looked like a Janet. He handed me his Polaroid and asked me to take a picture. When he saw it, he let out a booming laugh and he asked if he could use this in his next comedy set. I felt a thrill, electric, sharp, and I said yes. He said I looked beautiful and asked to pleasure me. I said yes.
Ellen suggested Noah help me get through the list, and as he was in the room, there wasn't much I could say. We know each other from university, but we've only ever spent time together with lots of other people around us. And sometimes when we're drunk, we have sex. And then the mornings after, we don't really say anything. We're very polite, and we stay out of each other's way for a few days. I thought it'd be weird, but the day's gone past quickly. We're back at Lockside and he's signed me up for karaoke. It's nice to be doing this with you. We don't hang out enough.
That's because you're always hanging out with my mum, which is crazy weird to me, by the way.
Yeah, sorry. That must be a bit odd. Gosh, she's just amazing though. You're so lucky to have her.
I know, especially because my dad took off so early on. She's been great. But she doesn't talk to me like she does to you. Maybe she wishes I'd been a girl.
Sometimes I feel like that about my dad. Like he wishes I was a boy because then we could hang out and it wouldn't feel weird that it's just us.
Did your mum leave too?
I nod and scratch my glass with my nail.
Just for the record, I think this list is stupid and you're fun anyway.
It's that kind of attitude that we don't need tonight, Noah. Tonight we go above and beyond and nothing is enough.
Sounds like you want to do cocaine.
Absolutely not. He laughs. And suddenly I'm ducking under the table. She's here. Oh my God, I haven't got my flashcards. I'm trying to remember the things I wrote down to say to her, but the words are gone.
Oh, it's her. I know, by the way, that you like her. Mum told me.
Oh, I didn't know you two talked about me when I'm not there.
Oh, obviously we do.
Yeah, I like Sabina. Like doesn't really cover it though. It feels a lot stronger and more depressing than that.
Love?
Maybe. I hope this isn't what love feels like though. I'm terrified.
Of what? Of getting rejected? By her? You do know she's been flirting with you the whole time I've known her.
Yeah, she does that.
I don't think it's very nice to lead people on.
The way he says this hits me painfully. I sit up, and he's looking away. I'm trying to figure out what to say when I hear my name over the speakers. Someone is calling Chris. Chris with a Y, it's your turn on the karaoke. Almost in spite of myself, I glance over at Sabina. She is looking straight at me and I can tell she is fuming. Noah looks at me, looking at her. I want to evaporate. I get up on the stage. Someone wolf whistles.
The content of the comedy club definitely improved over those next few months. Mostly because I was providing all the comedians with material. If they ever mentioned this mad girl that asked them to do hilarious, strange things in bed, invariably they were referring to me. A laugh from me was like Caesar's thumbs up. There was a new guy up there who was pretty cute, funny-ish, and I was weighing up whether I wanted him or not. I found myself slipping out for a cigarette. There are a group of men out there who clearly were regretting their decision to try out the comedy club. I felt defensive and concluded they must be idiots. One man, who was enormous in stature and had long blonde hair like a Viking, was standing slightly outside of the circle. I watched him. He didn't seem to want to add to the conversation, and the attentive look on his face showed a genuine pleasure in listening to the opinions of his friends. He noticed me staring from my corner. I didn't stop. He smiled and tucked a strand of hair behind his ear like a young girl. Then and there, I decided I was done with comedians. I took out another cigarette. I was faffing about looking for a lighter, and I asked some woman to borrow hers, and by the time I leant back to my spot, he was gone. I remember I felt crushingly disappointed. I kept looking at the place he'd been standing as if I could will him to return. And then I took my cigarette out of my mouth and said, "No." I walked over and picked up a little book. He must have dropped it. I opened it. Drawings of flowers on each page. I thought of how he tucked his hair behind his ears, and I looked at his simple little drawings of flowers, and all at once I had to sit down to hold back tears. I thought about my degree in plant and soil science and wished that I'd gone. I thought about last year, sitting in the treehouse and watching the garden below me shift and bulge and shrivel over the months. I thought about pressing flowers and Dad telling me that I could do plant science at university. How right that felt. If only I still loved beautiful things. I turn another page. I laugh. It's a sketch labelled Marigold. He didn't know he'd written my name. I jogged back into the club. The MC was on the stage and I climbed up and I took the microphone from her. I couldn't see anything except colours and dust. Someone outside dropped a notebook. It's got flowers in it. Drawings of them. I've got it. I'm just... Okay. I gestured to the bar. I waited there, fake relaxed. And he came. He was quiet and grateful. He turned down my offer of a drink.
I don't drink.
And just like that, my life changed.
Hello? Do you want another coffee, ma'am?
Yeah, sounds good.
Noah, do you want one?
Noah comes in, his hair wet from the shower. He's got a towel wrapped around his waist. Yeah, go on. He looks at me and I wave at him for some reason and instantly regret this and spend the next 5 minutes regretting it and looking into my coffee. He's being so gracious. I don't know what to do. I'm trying not to think about how last night ended because I'm worried that he'll be able to see it on my face.
So, how much have you guys done?
Quite a lot. We jumped in the canal. I got my nose pierced, look.
I hope that was after you jumped in, or it'll get infected.
Yeah, don't worry. Look, I even did karaoke.
Oh, how was it?
So horribly embarrassing. I'm a terrible singer. Noah swallows a mouthful of coffee to say that I'm lying. I smile and roll my eyes at Ellen.
So, how are you getting on with that girl then?
I don't think I'm bothered about her, actually. It turns out she's quite rude. I don't look at Noah.
What's left on the list then?
Climb the tree in my garden right to the very top and eat curried goat.
At the top of the tree?
No, separate things.
Well, I'm going to need you to take Noah with you. I need verification that these things have actually been done.
I look at Noah. He nods kindly, like he really is looking forward to watching me try and climb a tree and then eating a curry that will probably give us the shits. He leaves to get dressed and doesn't look at me as he goes. We're walking along to my house now, both of us silent, looking ahead. The things Sabina had said were ringing in the air between us. When we get to my place, he says this isn't where he imagined me living. I find myself wondering where he had imagined me living. I'm vaguely surprised that he imagines me at all. It makes me blush a little bit. I take him to the tree in the back garden. We have to let ourselves through the kitchen where my dad works, and he looks up from his sketches to say hi. Well, there it is. Bloody hell, it's taller than I realised. Noah looks unconvinced. He asks if I'm a good climber. He decides to test out the tree first, and I can tell it's because he really thinks I might hurt myself. This makes me smile, not so much because he cares, because he's a caring person to his core, like his mum, and he'd worry about anyone, but because I'm beginning to see that he imagines me to be reckless enough to keep going even if it were dangerous. I try and figure out if that's true. He thinks my list is a game of dares. I follow him up the tree and he's muttering about the sturdiness of the branches. I tap him on the shoulder. I've changed my mind. I don't want to climb to the top. Let's just sit here. I lean my head back on the branch behind me and shift my foot to touch him gently on the knee. My heart speeds up. I'm sorry. I treated you so badly. And I'm sorry about the things that Sabina said. That was so awful. He yanks his knee away from my foot. I'm shocked. I've never seen him angry before. He won't look at me. I wonder why he came here.
Is it true what Sabina said? Did you say all those things about me?
I did say those things, yes. I don't want to lie. I didn't mean for them to hurt you. I said that I didn't care about you so that maybe she'd see how I felt about her.
That's awful.
I know. But I can't tell you how angry it made me to see her upset you like that.
You don't need to. You poured your beer into her purse.
I sort of hoped that would maybe make up for it.
Only a little bit. I knew you were obsessed with her and I knew you didn't like me. I was hurting myself too.
You know though, if I hadn't been obsessed with her, I would never have been hanging out with you and your mum this summer. I'm pretty grateful for that. I reach my foot back to his knee. He lets it rest there. Do you want to hear a poem I wrote? He says yes, and that he didn't know I wrote poetry. I realise all at once that the part of myself I spend most time existing in and agonising over is not the part of myself I choose for others to see. How enormously sad, I think.
I never went back to the comedy club. Those years were a series of funny phases, but I kept something from all of them. I never changed my hair, I still look like a scary bitch. I still love to laugh, both in public and in private. The Viking man, Jake, liked the shape of my nose, he said. He found me uproariously funny and loved to listen to my stories. When I told him about Aberdeen, he said,
How wonderful.
And he drove me up there to look around. I started that year. I didn't see him much, kept in touch now and then. I had a string of other boyfriends. One of them was a mod. It didn't last. But I always knew he'd be waiting for me when I got back. And he was. We moved into his dad's house, which I love because of the huge tree at the end of the garden. Jake keeps promising to build a treehouse in it, but he never gets round to it. Tomorrow, he says, I'll start tomorrow. I haven't changed much in the last 5 years. I got a bit fatter. And that's not going to stop anytime soon. Jake and I are going to have a baby. Young, I know. My mum's horrified, the feminist. We were talking about names the other day. Jake said he wants a flower name like mine. The doctor said it's going to be a boy, Jake. We can't call a boy Primrose. I know this is probably awful of me to admit and means I'm going to be a terrible mother, but when we found out it was a boy, I was disappointed. It's pure narcissism. I just always imagined explaining all the things I'd learnt to a girl rather than a boy. There are things boys just don't understand. Part of me thinks maybe the doctor got it wrong, but Jake says technology these days is too good.
Noah's phone goes off. I can see it's a text from Ellen. I wonder if she's asking about me. Noah hands me the phone. Ellen has made a picture of Pims and is asking whether she should bring it to my house to have in the garden and celebrate me completing the list. Oh, we forgot to order the curried goat.
You didn't climb to the top?
Let's just lie. I shout to Dad. He comes over, stretching his arms above his head after sitting at his desk for so long. I ask if Ellen can come over. He says that'll be lovely and he'll make some snacks. He waves awkwardly at Noah again. He probably thinks you're my boyfriend. Noah laughs politely. I kick myself.
Jake's in the garden sketching some daffodils. I come out and laugh at his builder's bum. Daffodil is quite a good boy name. No, actually, scratch that. Oh, of course.
Ellen has arrived and she's chatting good-naturedly with my dad. Noah and I are still in the tree. The gardens always look quite lonely to me, but suddenly on this sunny day it's filled with funny people and Pims and my topless dad arsing about. Ellen is joking around, pretending to pour the jug of Pims all over his head. He bats it away and the whole thing tips over Ellen. She is soaked.
Oh my God! I'm so sticky! Do you have anything I can change into? Oh, quick, the wasps are going to eat me alive!
Dad's gone inside with Ellen and I wonder what he's going to bring her because Ellen is substantially bigger than me. I don't think anything of mine will fit her.
Chrysanthemum! Chris, for short. No one will ever know. Or would that be too cruel? Jake shakes his head and says he doesn't think we should call the poor boy a flower name. The world isn't ready, he said.
Ellen re-emerges, giggling with Dad. She's wearing a bizarre outfit, pinstripe trousers and a t-shirt that has a young man in a pair of boxers wearing fairy wings printed on the front. Where on earth did you get those, Dad?
Out of the mum stuff, in the loft. There are loads of her clothes I haven't sorted through.
Noah looks uncomfortably at me. It's only just dawning on him that my mum is dead. I smile back to tell him it's all right. I've never seen that t-shirt before. It's hilarious.
Your mother was a hilarious woman. Jake's been telling me some stories about her when she was young. She sounds like a real character.
Dad's flowers in the garden rustle. I touch my hand on Noah's and he takes it.
She'd be so happy to see you in the tree. She wanted me to build a tree house in it for you.
Noah says he can help with that, and we arrange for him and Ellen to come back tomorrow.
Fare thee well to you, my own true love. There were many fare thee wells, for I am bound to California, a place that I know right well. So fare thee well, my own true love. When I return united, we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that grieves me, but my darling, when I think of thee.
You have been listening to Unpick the Flowers. I have been your host, Katya Цветочная. This play was written and directed by Dixie Manziewicz, sound designed by Carl Lawrence, art by Jess Racha Brown, produced by Anna Trauby. And in order of appearance, or should I say adherence, Marigold was voiced by Orly Vogt Vincent, Chris was voiced by Maddie Smith, Sophie was voiced by Francesca Mann, Ellen was voiced by Amy Lever, and I, Jana, voiced the MC and the other. We hope you have a lovely evening and goodbye for now.